going to call the meeting to order and start with pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes. I have a motion to adopt the minutes as distributed.
I'll second it.
I didn't get a chance to read them. They just came through today, so.
You want to,
I mean, I can abstain if the board's.
well, you want to table it till next meeting? We can do that. So you get a chance to read it?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. If you guys all read it, we're fine.
No. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I don't want to, we'll table it till the next meeting. Okay, citizens' comments. Now, hopefully everybody took a look on the back of the agenda. There's rules for procedure regarding citizens' comments, and I would ask you to adhere to the rules regarding that. And does anybody have any comments regarding agenda items?
Rob Helfrich, 349 Hourglass in Limits. Here. All right. So yeah, I have some comments in regard to the I noticed that the appendix, Appendix A, was deleted out of the club, as was discussed at the last meeting. However, there's still a recommendation for increasing industrial lot usage in the body of the club. Specifically, it's under the commercial and industrial land use implementation section. It's item number 9. And it says, with the limited amount of commercial and industrial zone land currently included in the town of Lysander zoning map, the maximum lot coverage of the commercial and industrial zone parcels, period. The town should consider increasing lot coverage on commercial and industrial parcels. This would maximize the development potential of these parcels, which would help reduce the potential commercial and industrial spread. The first step of pursuing a zoning change to the town code is that it must comply with the comprehensive land use plan of the club. This recommendation for the town to consider increasing lot coverage on commercial and industrial parcels is not a benign sentence. The town needs the recommendation in the club to be able to change the industrial land use law. I've heard various arguments from members of the town administration as to why we should pursue a recommendation to increase industrial lot usage. I'd like to discuss each. Number 1, it would maximize the development potential of these parcels, which would help reduce the potential commercial industrial sprawl. Now, I find it hard to follow this logic. Once you build, again, I said this last time, once you build a high-density industrial site, the secret process compares the environmental impact of the next industrial site against its current environment. Thus, the environmental bar for the future sites would be low, since they compare to a changed environment of excessive truck traffic, congestion, and light pollution. This would increase industrial sprawl, not decrease it. Number 2, we need the additional tax base of a large industrial site to support town infrastructure growth. The tax base in Lysander is more than sufficient to support our infrastructure. The appraised tax base has grown nearly 25% in the past 3 years, over $4 billion. This is why the town's been able to reduce the tax rate 18%, not necessarily reduce taxes, but the tax rate. This is simple math. If the tax base grows at a faster rate than the town budget, you can reduce the tax rate. With a $4 billion and growing tax base, we don't need the taxes that will eventually occur with a high-density industrial site after the pilot and tax abatements eventually expire. Number 3, Radisson is at 80% industrial lot usage, therefore so should Lysander. This is really apples and oranges. The Radisson industrial site, or Radisson industrial area, is 950 acres. It's mostly built. The lots vary between 2 and 80 acres. It's mostly developed and currently 20 acres are available. The huge difference is that the Radisson does not have a 122 acre lot. Increasing lot usage to 80% would allow a developer, either United Auto Supply or somebody else, to build a 3 million square foot industrial building on that lot. Nothing like this exists in Radisson and never will despite their 80% lot usage. Number 4, according to our town supervisor, we have to make hard decisions, and some in the community just may not like it. I just have some trouble with this because who in Lysander is the town board trying to please? Where's all the community support for a high-density industrial complex on Hinkle Boulevard? The only input that the board has received is from standing room only public hearings during the COVID outbreak, which were filled with residents in opposition to the United Auto Supply 1 million square foot warehouse. Has the town board surveyed its constituents to see how they feel about it? Voting for the club with a recommendation to increase industrial lot usage is a vote to allow the town board to pursue the law change. That's why this is important.
You have about another 30 seconds.
In summary, there are 2 main points the town board needs to consider this evening. First, Renale bought the land at 30% lot usage. He combined 3 parcels into a 122-acre lot. At 30%, he can already fit a 1 million square foot warehouse on that lot. The original plan came in at 29%. Why does the board need to go through approving the club recommending increasing industrial lot usage? Unless the intent of the town board is to allow a developer to build something very large, greater than 1 million square feet, there is no need for the club to recommend increasing industrial lot usage.
Okay.
The second item, which is very important, please give me a little bit, this is important for the board to understand this. When the planning board or the town board when has the planning board or the town board determined what the residents of Lysander want regarding industrial use? Did the town board survey the community for input? No. Did the club committee survey the community during the 2 years it took to draft the update? No.
Okay.
You have several board members have at their best.
Mr. Helfrich, this isn't a public hearing, it's public comments. I let you go over your allotted time, but other people might want to speak, so it's time for them to get up and have an opportunity.
Can I just talk about one question I think the board needs to consider this evening before this vote?
No, it's not a question and answer. Is there anybody else that wants to speak?
Fred Birch, Plainville Road. I appreciate that you can tell he's done his homework. I want to speak about some of that too, but more feelings. As somebody who's lived in this town my entire life, there's another way of looking at that.
So, okay.
I want to make comments about the club.
Okay.
I'm speaking to the club.
Okay.
And not specific, more broad. At the last meeting, there was discussion about the club, and I appreciate that board members and department heads shared their feelings, especially Mr. Moore, who reminded us all that as elected officials, you're residents of the town as well, and that you love this town. I believe him when he said that. And I know you, like the other board members and myself, don't want in this town, they have in neighboring towns. 14 years ago, I stood in this same spot and I asked the previous board, why can't we have a Kentucky Fried Chicken? Why can't we have a Taco Bell? Why do I have to go to Cicero and Clay to get that? And I was young and I didn't realize, but I learned. Because people on the board at that time explained to me that Lysander is a special place and we want to keep it Lysander. And we don't want that Taco Bell and we don't want that KFC. Because then it's going to bring in everything else. And then we're going to have Clay. And we're going to have Cicero. We'd rather live in Lysander. I said, thank you for teaching me about that. And the way that municipalities are set up with elections every 4 years, there's almost no accountability unless you get a lifelong, a lifer like Mr. Bullis was at the time, or whatever. We haven't had anything.
Okay,
we haven't had anything like that since.
You know what the rules are.
Okay. So without any accountability, it's tough to come back to this board, which didn't teach me about that or make suggestions. And so I appreciate what Mr. Moore said, but then I went back and I reflected about it when I got an opportunity. And I said, well, if it's not this board that's contemplating the change with club, which would result in a potentially higher percentage build out for that particular site, if it's not the board and it's not the people that come in front of the microphone this year, then who is it? And who's even talking about this? Who's bringing it up? And I realized it's this club committee. And I'm like, who picks this club committee? Don't these club committee people live in Lysander too? Don't they want what we all want for Lysander? Why would they suggest a 50 or 80% build out? And I started asking around, and I'm like, well, people who invest, wouldn't they want the same opportunity that you would get in another town or another town? Well, then go to that other town, because we don't do things like that here. I can remember when this town had 12,000 people in it, and it had pretty much all the same roads that we have now, minus the cookie cutter development roads. And there's 2-3 times the traffic on these roads. And it's led to a community that isn't as ergonomic as it used to be and as fun as it used to be, in my opinion. I know somebody's gonna, on the side of the room, might follow me up here and say, and that's not the case. But from what I've seen, and I'd like to keep this community the way that we have it. Another distinction, the development in Radisson, I'm okay with because I know the history. In World War I, my grandmother went there on a daily basis to work, to build bombs for the war factory. And most of that land is a waste site that they put some topsoil over and built some houses. So I'm okay with fixing what was bad at one time. But this land that we have out here in Lysander by Henkel Road and 690, that didn't make bombs there before. That's always been farmland.
You got about 30 seconds.
I'd like to keep it that way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am.
I read the comprehensive plan update, and I'm assuming that the traffic study that is included in this was based on the 2015 traffic study with minor updates. Is that correct?
Yes.
I do not believe that the traffic study encompasses anything with regards to the traffic influx from an increase in development of heavy industrial uses. Portions of the plan state that the current zoning for commercial and industrial land use appears to be more than adequate. But then in paragraph 9, it states that it should be increased. So I don't believe that you've made, I don't believe that there's sufficient data that recommends an increase in the industrial lot usage. And with regards to that, whether it be from the 30% that it is now to 50 or 80% that was previously proposed, there doesn't seem to be a reason for that, or a real reason for it. You don't specify why in the so that's my problem. And the other thing is that also states that the largest industrial use is Anheuser-Busch, McLean, Northeast Food Distribution, Agrana, and others, and they're all located along Henkel Boulevard between 690 48 and 631 Radisson. So if all of those were able to increase their lot occupancy, as well as all the 490 acres of vacant land, what does that do? Does the traffic study address that issue? I don't think it does. And I think that a comprehensive plan update should be comprehensive. And if you're not going to include that portion of it, then I don't think you should pass it. While I do agree with a lot of your subdivision recommendations, as far as traffic flow and limited traffic access and all these subdivisions that are coming about for greater traffic flow, I do agree with that. There's a lot of things in the updated plan that I agree with. I do not agree that you should be approving a plan that does not include a major increase in industrial development. Thank you.
Richard Latano, 121 Coachman's Whip. My wife and I and our family, we've lived here for 35 years. What I want to point out to you tonight, pretty simply put, I oppose taking the industrial build out from 30% to potentially 80%. Why? I would prefer that we leave everything just as it is and operate on an exception basis. The world works on exceptions, and so can we. If we get a manufacturer who wants to come in here and build a product, an environmentally friendly product, a good product, and we have some of those in our community right now, and they need 30%, great. If they need 50 or 60%, we should consider it, given the fact that they're going to manufacture a product, they're going to create jobs, they're going to create quality taxable income for the community. If you guys simply go to a carte blanche and you take it to 60, 70, 80%, you're opening the door for Tom, Dick, and Harry to come in here and build a commercial warehouse. Once that commercial warehouse is up, they are going to serve their tenants. And when their tenants are in here and one guy's got 50,000 square feet and another's got 100,000 square feet, you're really not going to know what's going on in that space. You could have somebody in here manufacturing and making glue. You could have somebody in here storing industrial chemicals used for highways. You could have a lot going on that you're not going to really go and know about when it's rent and it's developed and then it's rented out and it's strictly a warehouse. One of the things that was mentioned at the last meeting, which is very valid, the tax rate in the town of Lysander has declined. You've done a good job, but so have all the residents of this community. We all take care of our property. The net result is property values in the town of Lysander continue to go up. We're one of the leading communities in Onondaga County for home price escalation. Prices are going up. That makes it easier for you to be able to reduce the tax rate per thousand. So I'm asking you, keep everything the way it is, operate on an exception basis. We get a good manufacturer to come in here, let's open our arms to that manufacturer. We get people that are going to come in here and are going to try and build 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 square foot warehouses. We're opening up a can of worms. Bottom line, let's do the right thing for the kids. Let's do the right thing for the grandchildren of this community. Keep it the way it is, preserve Lysander, and look for quality tax income growth. Thank you.
Russell, 13 Chaucer Circle. I can't really add too much more to what has already been said. I do think, though, when you're doing something that's going to affect so many people and going to change our environment and our community so much, that the word needs to get spread out more. Yes, we have this as a venue to express ourselves, but you don't have the community here. You need to go out and put it out there so that people can read it, exactly what's going to be changing and what it may affect. The only thing I can add to this is I'm going to date myself. There was a song by Joni Mitchell many, many years ago. And there was one verse in there that I think really kind of sums it up for me. You don't know what you got until it's gone. They paved paradise and they put up a parking lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Len Kashish, and I also live on Chaucer Circle. And I was just wondering whether an environmental consulting firm has been called in to look at this situation from an environmental standpoint. Do you remember the forest fires we had earlier this year? Was it in May or June? And what the quality of the air was like? It was so bad that the National Weather Service was issuing warnings about going outside, engaging in vigorous activity outside. I had my PhD in meteorology. I know a lot about pollution, and I know a lot about how the effects of pollution can affect human life. I've had 2 types of cancer. Both were life-threatening. And I got the cancer from secondhand smoke. I never smoked a cigarette in my life, nor a cigar. And what is directly across from the area where they want to build the warehouses, you have Lysander Town Park. And I've never seen Lysander Town Park used as much now as it has in the last 12 years. What do you think is going to happen to those young kids 15, 20 years down the road if they're exposed to this type of pollution? Diesel fuel. You know, a lot of people have talked about the traffic problem. I'm more concerned about environmentally about this situation. It's a disaster waiting to happen. It won't happen in a year, it won't happen in 2 years. But 10, 15 years down the road, there will be an increase in the incidence of cancer. One other point that I want to bring out a little bit about meteorology. It wasn't just the forest fires that was the problem. It was the atmospheric conditions too. And probably most of you don't even know what an inversion is. An inversion occurs when you have a cold layer of air or a cool layer of air trapped near the surface and you have warmer air aloft. It often occurs when a large high-pressure system exists over the area and there's not enough winds to disperse the pollutants that are near the surface. Well, that creates a real problem. So, and the problem is that it's a very stable situation with the cool air near the surface and the warmer air aloft. There's no way to disperse the pollutants and they become trapped close to the surface, and it'll happen very often in the fall when you get that cooling occurs at night. So that the air near the surface is cooler, the air above is warmer, and the winds are rather light, especially if you have a high pressure system over the area. That is just going to increase the number of pollutants that are in the air. And it's a disaster waiting to happen. Maybe not in a year, maybe not in 2 years, but 5, 10 years down the road. A lot of these children who are playing at Lysander Town Park, and like I say, I've never seen it this crowded. In fact, when I passed by there this evening on the way here, there was hardly a parking space available there. It's highly used now. Pickleball players, if you're a pickleball fan, and we get a day like we had with the forest fires earlier this year, you won't be playing pickleball. You definitely won't. And a lot of those activities at Lysander Town Park will be canceled. But who's going to cancel them? the National Weather Service was issuing the warnings, but the National Weather Service isn't going to issue warnings for a local area like Lysander if the number of pollutants is high in the atmosphere. So there's a real problem, and I suggest that environmental company be brought in to assess the situation. Like I say, it is a disaster waiting to happen, and it will happen. And like I say, I do have my PhD in meteorology, so I do know what the consequences of this could be. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on then. Town board comments, Mr. Moore.
Sure, thanks. For starters, oh, go ahead. Okay.
Bill Spreeder, 436 Hourglass Lane. I'm just concerned, I realize that you on the town board are supposed to be interested in what we have to say and are taking a survey of the people here and other people to determine what should be the answer to this question. But wouldn't it be nice if somehow the residents of Lysander themselves could actually deal with this question themselves? And I don't know how it's done, how it's supposed to be done, but were they ever asked in a referendum or anything like that whether they wanted a greater portion of the area to be put in a 1 million square foot warehouse? Everything I've heard tonight seems to indicate to me that there are issues and there are problems in increasing this to beyond 30%. And I'm concerned about that. And you heard the environmental reasons here. You've heard some practical reasons about traffic and the problems that will be attended to that, and the kind of community that we have that's going to be affected by this rapid industrialization of former farmland in the community. So I'm just hoping that you as residents and all of us maybe have some sort of, I don't know if it's a forum, but possibly even a vote on the issue after some discussion, rather than just allowing this to go ahead the way it is. Very concerned about that. I think I've heard an awful lot here, and I hope that you guys and the town council here considers what you do very carefully in terms of expansion of the industrial base. Thanks.
Anyone else?
My name is Wayne Weiss. I live on Smoky Hollow Road, north of the proposed site. I'm roughly a mile away from through the woods. We have no piped-in water. We have no sewers. Everybody north of where this is going to be built has to get by on a well. We've always had water troubles as it is. Now, you're destroying part of the water flow that we get. We get water from south to north. Already I've seen a drop in my pond, which is like a bellwether. We had plenty of rain this year, plenty of it. Normal years, right now, my pond is right up to the ridge, right up to the top. Not this year. It's down at least to 7/8 of what it normally is. And this is October. Now, what's going to happen? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, my next door neighbor still gets their well on a 30-foot drop. That's all it is. And I'm sitting up on a little bit of a ridge. My pond is about 12 feet below the house. And it used to be 12 foot deep. Well, it's not now. And it's an old farmer's pond. As a matter of fact, our whole property, the most recent uses, as far as farming goes, was tobacco. We grew tobacco, it was a huge tobacco farm. All that whole area was. And there was plenty of water for this. In our regular uses of water are just like everybody else within the villages. But we need water to be constant, and we need it to be clean and available. We're worried that you keep going with this project, and it's going to really put a handicap on us. We asked you 20 years ago for a water line, and you just threw roadblocks up all around. You didn't want to help us. All the way up on Lamson Road, those people up there, there's one guy up there has had 6 wells cut to get water out because he can't get enough. And it's not just that property. I'm fine. I got water right now. I made the well a little deeper. All that's a good thing. Now, that's my biggest concern. Not in what was mentioned before about pollution, air pollution, diesel. Well, most of the time, the wind is coming out of the southwest. And I am just northeast of that project. And I don't want to really smell that. And I don't want to hear trucks humping all night long, and they leave their engines running. These are diesels. And they use up a tremendous amount of, they create quite a bit of carbon monoxide and dioxide. And I don't think it's going to be healthy. I thank you for your time. But I had to get, there is one little tiny thing. I never saw a survey. You never sent out a survey. Nobody I know got anything in the mail saying, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about taking our property and turning it over for industrial usage? You didn't. You just said, no, we're doing this. And that's, I want to see a written survey for everybody to participate in. I thought this was a representative democracy. Let's see what the people here in this village, in this town, want. And then proceed from there, not what maybe 1 or 2 or half a dozen people think is a good idea. Let's spread it out and give everybody a chance to make a comment about it. And then make a decision. Now, I understand that there's a lot of other problems, but it was mentioned about you should be getting people in here to take a look at what's going to happen to the environment. Yes, I thought that's what you guys were doing, but I didn't see anything written about it. I mean, I'm not privileged to know everything that goes on in your meetings. I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir.
John Farnett, Connell Terrace, 32 years. I concur with everything I've heard, but I have not heard, and maybe I did get here a speaker too late, about the truck traffic climbing 690 from Henkel Boulevard. Then you got the on-ramp 370. About 10, 15 years ago, a guy jackknifed and got killed on the bridge there. So you got hundreds of trucks potentially a day climbing 690, full throttle to get up the hill with 20, 25-ton loads. Crest the hill, they're ready to go. I don't know whether, I know some of you might live on 370, the traffic going out towards Cato is intense. You got a real safety situation, and I want to know who's going to take responsibility if the first one that gets killed there. There's going to be a major accident on the merger of 370 going down that hill and these hundreds of 18-wheelers coming down the hill. These guys are from out of town. They don't give a shit about speed limits, anything else. They climb the hill, they're still ready to go. They might be behind. Plus, when you're talking about the United Auto Warehouse, if you notice, half the time, their warehouse is half full of FedEx trucks at Jones Road. They ship most of their stuff by FedEx ground because they got the best rates and it's heavy stuff. So you're gonna have, I don't know, 50 trucks a day just going to FedEx ground.
It's not.
I don't understand.
It's a food right.
You got a big problem here with safety. As far as the farmland, 100% with the other speakers. As far as Joni Mitchell, 100%. Once it's paved, it's there forever, gone. Chasing all the wildlife, all that beautiful area out for a warehouse selling Chinese auto parts, 100%. Any one of us, take out your phone, get on Alibaba.com. Alibaba, it's like Chinese Amazon. You can order everything in there at a half the price you're gonna get it from United Warehouse. There's no magic here. There's no tool makers working at United Warehouse. There's no skilled tradesmen, there's nothing. 100% Chinese. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Okay, now we'll go to you, Mr. Moon.
All right. So for starters, I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight and of course for watching. And I may be aging myself, but I too like Joni Mitchell. So in listening to everybody, it seems to me a minimum of 3 issues. I know the agenda item is the club, but it seems to me that there were 3 issues that were spoken about. One was the club. One was the code, the difference between the club and the code, which I would like to address a little bit. But the majority of the discussion was about a warehouse. And I'll let the supervisor talk to this, but to my knowledge, there's no warehouse going in. So those of you who came up and spoke about the warehouse, I believe at this point in time, you may be happy with that. As far as the club and the code goes, so I received emails, phone calls, and texts, and there is some misinformation being spread out there, and I'm going to work under the assumption that it's coming from a good place. Nobody's purposely misleading people. And I did like the Mr. Weiss, you mentioned the representative democracy. Part of that is listening. The club is this document. Our codes are this document. So the club is not the law. This is the law. So when somebody wants to build something in this town, the club doesn't play the role that I believe some people may think it plays. This document plays the role. So they go in front of the planning board, and the planning board says, well, if whatever you want to build into this situation fits this set of laws, then they oversee that. The club is just, it's a narrative. It's a committee of people that sat back and from all walks of life in Lysander, and they said, well, and actually they only revised it, it was already previously written. But it's a narrative saying this is what the future of our town could like. Here are some suggestions. The one that people are most concerned about, the changing of lot coverage, they are suggestions. They are not law. And part of that representative democracy is listening to suggestions. It doesn't mean that the board has to take them up. The board has to follow the law, planning board has to follow the law, but a suggestion is just that, it's a suggestion. Everyone I went to the microphone made suggestions also. and we listen to that. But I don't want people to be confused, especially, like I said, there is some misinformation going on out there, and people are bringing it to my attention. I don't want people to be confused that all of this is the same thing. The club, the warehouse, the town code, it's not all the same thing. They're all very different. As I said last time, and Mr. Birch pointed it out, we live here. And, you know, I don't want to see 80% of our town paved over. I don't. I don't want to see 50% of our town paved over. But I do want, we have to follow the law. We have to accept the suggestions of people. That doesn't mean we have to follow them. We have to look at it and adopt it at some point. My thought is that we table this document. Again, first time we tabled it because there was stuff in there we didn't like as a board. The second time we tabled it after it was changed because our copy didn't mirror the copy that was online for everybody else to see. So we tabled it again. We found some typos in there. There is some concern. I would say mostly with the warehouse though. There is some concern, so I would recommend as a board that we table it again and hold further discussions. If there is ever a law to change in this book, to change industrial land from 30 to 50 to 80 to anything, if there's ever something like that discussed, it will have its own public hearing before it ever becomes law. But a suggestion in here doesn't make it law. It just doesn't. If it were to change, it would be here. You would have another opportunity to voice your opinion. We would have another opportunity to tell you how we feel. I think you know how I feel, but I do recommend that we maybe table that item. I don't know if anybody else has any other comments, but other than that, thanks again for coming out and sharing.
Okay, it's my turn. I think this entire board knows where I come from in terms of protecting green space for this community. I've been a non-stop or broken record since 2014, since I got on this board. So just about everything I heard tonight, you know, it's like music to my ears. And for those who don't know me, my background's in the director of Beaver Lake Nature Center, Rand County Parks. I mean, everything about the quality of life in this town is what this is all about. And I work very closely with Jack Corey and the folks who put this comprehensive land use plan together because we didn't want anything in there that would speak to changing from 30% to 60%. It was, those numbers were actually in there. All that this is a kind of a vision statement. This is what we think our town should look like. And if you've all read it, I'm happy that we've actually pointed out and recognized the very quality and character that you folks are talking about. The only issue in there is a recommendation that when it comes to industrial site coverage, the town board or the town consider changing it. People can make recommendations all the time. You guys can make recommendations that we change or not change things. Whether this exists or not, a year from now, someone can say to the town board, we want you to change the lot coverage from 30% to 50%. And then we have to debate that with your hopefully your input to tell us how to do it correctly. This has nothing to do with what the town board may or may not do. As long as I'm sitting on this board, you know, I'm really concerned about, you know what? I'm not as much worried about industrial development as I am residential development. If there's anything to worry about in terms of traffic, that's really where we're going to have to put our heads together and figure out what are we doing to this community. So I just hope you appreciate you've got representative government in the sense that all we're going to do eventually when we get this thing off the table and correct the typos is vote on it as a vision document. Then the work begins with that book, and as far as I'm concerned, nothing can change. Well, nothing will change until there's ample debate and consensus that we ought to change things. So I'm a little bit more confident about the future, about Lysander, because what I've been hearing from my fellow board members is consistency that nobody wants to see this community turn into Clay and Cicero. We all get it. I mean, I've been saying that, we've been saying that for years, right, folks? And I don't think you're going to see it. But make sure you vote for people on this board, that for this board, that really say those kinds of things. That's really important, because, you know, if my term expires in 2 years and I don't decide to run again, and someone wants to run for election and they're all about development, well, you ought to be thinking about, is that the kind of person you want on the board? So, and the whole, remember the adage, if you say something long enough or repeat it so often, what is accepted as truth. This has nothing to do with the warehouse. The warehouse plan is already there. They've told us they're not going to build it, but we can't decide. It was allowed to be, it was an industrially zoned area for decades. I don't know how long, 50, 60 years? I mean, a long time. We didn't do that. The developer came to the town and said, we'd like to develop according to your zoning and guidelines, and we can't say no to that. We can't. We would be in your tax dollars would be used in a court of law as we got sued for doing that. Now we can make sure that if the real concern is not to expand, not to do any more, don't go from 30 to 60, well, you'll have time to talk about that. As far as I'm concerned, there's no proposal coming to this board to change the zoning guidelines for industrial site lot coverage. There's nothing on the agenda. There's no backroom deals that have been made, no agreements that have been made. As far as I'm concerned, we adopt that as a vision statement, which is a lot of good stuff in there, folks, about preserving the green space and the integrity of our community. And then, as projects come to the planning board, and that's where those projects get decided. You know, every single one gets reviewed. So just, you know, I hear you. You know, I wish we could just, you know, wave a magic wand and say everything is going to be perfect. It probably won't be, but I'll be damned before any of my energy gets used to turn this community into a clay or a cistern. We are what we are, and it's absolutely outstandingly beautiful, and it's 2023, and we've managed to hold on to that. Let's keep it. That's all.
So I listened to all your suggestions, and I thank you guys and ladies for all coming up to the speaker and talking about, you know, your vision. Obviously, you guys all and ladies all read the club. I think what I'm hearing too is, you know, it's about the lot increase, right? I think that's the only hiccup that you guys feel that's in this club. I think if we remove that paragraph in page 51, I believe, section 9, completely out of the club, so that way there's no misinterpretation whatsoever. Everyone will be happy, because piggyback on what Pete and Mr. Drossi said, if we remove that completely, I think we'll have a final vision of the club, and we can pass the club, right? I don't feel comfortable passing it right now with what I've heard today, what I've heard in previous meetings. What I'd like to do is not just table it, just to remove that. We removed the appendix. Why not remove this? Because it says the same thing, bottom line. The appendix was removed, this needs removed, and then we can be done with it and move on. That's what I like to do. And thanks all for coming, watching on PAC-B as well too. I do want to say, for the past couple days, I was able to watch DE Tiroli work along with our engineer and our highway crew. They did a fantastic job. I just want to say congratulations for all your hard work. Thank you. And Al, if I didn't mention your name. Please.
Okay, I guess it's me. Thank you all for coming. I have listened to all your comments. I've pretty much attended the board and planning board meetings through this whole process from back when the warehouse was proposed. From everything that we know, the warehouse has been removed from, you know, a plan. He withdrew it from our planning board. He has approached the county. He got a curb cut on Hinkle Boulevard, so I don't think that's the end of that lot usage. I agree with Jeff after hearing the public. And, you know, let's remove that. We talked at the work session, and even last meeting, people came up and a couple of board members said, I'm not comfortable with that. So let's remove the wording. If we're not comfortable with it, this is our town board deciding this club. Another town board can come in and open it back up and adjust it, and that's their right, and it's their privy, and they can, you know, face the public again. Great points on the surveys. I know the first time we went through the club, I believe Jack Corey was on the board, planning board at that time, and we had very limited input when we asked the public to comment, ask, assist on creation of the club.
We got less than 4% back of the thousands or so.
Right. Now, this is a different day and age with social media and people being more, internet inclined.
Yep.
So maybe we need to look back or create committees with people from different areas of town that have different interests. So, that's something we can do. I'm fine with removing it. The one thing I fear that if we don't, I attended a plan-on meeting here at the town of Lysander back in the summer, and the county government is extending monies to towns to work on their comprehensive plans. And I asked at the end of the meeting, would the comprehensive plan be viewed as from the county as something the county's going, oh, where would somebody like, a Micron-like building? And they're gonna look over town's comprehensive plans and say, well, right here in your comprehensive plan, it says you're open to this kind of thing. So that's why I agree that if we don't think we should move forward with this and remove that section, we should remove it, because I don't want the county coming in and telling us, well, you said this was, you'd look into it, so now we're asking you to look into it. Couple other things. Early voting starts October 28th, Lysander Town Hall, right here, this room will be available. Check on gov.net for times to vote. Come out and exercise your right to vote. That's all you can say about that. It's open from the 28th to November 5th, from Saturday to the next Sunday. I would also like to thank the GBAC, the fire department, and the Beeville Police Department. I'm gonna get choked up about this because I was part of it. Had a friend, works at the bowling alley, got caught in a machine, they were assisted. Everything turned out great at the end. You think the worst case scenario, but it was the best. Having the ambulance corps 100 feet away was probably a huge difference. But the quick reactions and the assistance of everybody, first responders and even people at the bowling alley, probably made a huge difference in the man's life right now. So, I thank everybody. We put ARPA money up for the ambulance corps to have one more ambulance, and thank God when somebody ran across, there were people there. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody for attending, and I welcome all your comments and input. Thank you.
Okay. So now, normally I was planning on doing a state of the town at the end of the year, and normally it takes a lot of time to put that together, but I'm accommodating Mr. Rode. He almost insisted that I do it, so I put one together, and it wouldn't be as comprehensive as the one I would have done at the end of the year, but I'll give you an overview of the state of our town. So our current fiscal health of the town is not only good, it's great. We're poised to head into the future with confidence, knowing we will continue to provide citizens of Lysander with excellent services while always being conscious of our property tax rates. The tax rate over the last 4 years, which includes this year's preliminary budget, has been reduced each year. We've been able to accomplish this even with the hyperinflation that we are all faced with. Under my direction in the past year, the town has held assessments steady through this economically uncertain time. We have passed a property tax exemption for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers in the interest of community safety and well-being, and to recognize their valuable contribution to our community. We've also raised the senior citizen disability exemption income levels in recognition of their limited income and to allow more seniors to qualify for the exemption. I've worked diligently to maintain a healthy fund balance, which according to the New York State Comptroller helps us to reduce the cost of borrowing for cash flow, offset revenue shortfalls in poor economic times as well as unexpected expenditures, stabilize taxes and maintain services without budget cutbacks, improve long-term planning initiatives and enhance the credit rating of local government. Our state comptroller created the fiscal stress monitoring system as an early warning system for communities and school districts with fiscal problems. The system is designed to objectively identify issues with budgetary solvency, the ability to generate enough revenue to meet expenditures for each town through a series of indicators. For example, our fund balance is one of the indicators used to determine our score. Now, for this score, you should know that lower is better. Like golf, the scale goes from 1 to 100. 0 being like golfing par or hitting a grand slam or dunking over Shaq, whatever analogy you want to use. Fund balance operating deficiencies are included in the controller score. So in 2019, we had a 3.3 fiscal score and an environmental score of 13.3. In 2020, our fiscal score went to 0. Now remember, the lower the better, so that's as good as you can get. And our environmental score was still 13.3. The reason being they go back 5 years, and our score was low because at that time our housing prices were not keeping up pace with the rest of the county. But in 2021 and 2022, our scores for both fiscal and environmental were 0 for each one. That's the best that you can get. The New York State's Comptroller's criteria verifies that our town is in great fiscal condition. Another fiscal instrument that we have at our disposal is debt for various needed capital projects. Debt is an effective instrument when used wisely. It can help our town with expenses while simultaneously assist in cost cutting and the tax rate consistency. Projects from 2020 on, we had the Radisson Sewer project ending in 2028. These are all debt. Town Hall project, which ends in 2025. The LED street lighting project ending in 2035. But to this, along that time, the project will significantly lower utility costs for street lighting throughout the town, which everybody will be able to, anyone with lights will benefit from. Prior to the interest rates rising, we financed some of our debt at a lower interest rate, resulting in significant cost savings. I will continue to monitor interest rates as our current debt dissipate. We will be prepared to take on some of additional capital projects which will benefit the entire town in the future. As we talk about funding, it is also important to understand property taxes. Fund balance and debt are not only our sources of revenue. I've been diligent in seeking out other sources of grant and project funding to offset the tax levy. We've completed over $2 million worth of infrastructure projects utilizing grant funding. Some of the projects include numerous road improvements town-wide, drainage and culvert repairs throughout the town, sewer and water projects in the West Phoenix and Indian Springs districts. We've received grant funding from each branch of our government, county, state, and federal. We've also had several grants allocated for the future. We have future grants for park projects and road projects amounting to over $450,000. There's a large amount of funding that the town was fortunate enough to receive as part of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA as it is better known. The town received approximately $1.8 million in ARPA funds, and we've made a conscious effort to use ARPA funding in a responsible way with two main goals in mind: benefits to the community and ensuring funded projects do not result in large increased annual costs to the taxpayer. Some of the highlights of the spending include fixing several drainage infrastructure issues within the town, Whispering Oaks, Amelia Park, Brickwalk, and Clinton Heights being some of those. Phoenix Sewer District and water main relocation at the Fireside Inn, all of which has resulted in sorely needed infrastructure improvements and large cost reductions to the taxpayer. The town will also soon be able to enjoy a new soccer field at our park, which was paid for not only with ARPA funding, but also previously mentioned grant funding. This field is a great addition to our town park and was a perfect project for the spending, as the upkeep costs going forward will be minimal. We have supported organizations in the local community with these funds as well. The town gave the Baldwinsville Ambulance Corps, as previously mentioned, $50,000 to buy a new much-needed ambulance for their fleet. ARPA funding also paid for the redesign of Engine 91 website used for volunteer firefighters. I believe both of these projects to be vital to the safety and health of our community. We've made sure to improve the efficiency of our highway department through championing some needed fleet upgrades. 3 new plows with another one on the way, a tractor with a mower, several trucks, an excavator, and a payloader. The upkeep and safety of our roads and infrastructure is important, and that has been an important priority of the town while always remaining conscious of our bottom line and fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers. The town of Lysander has a strong vision for the future. We want to help increase in small businesses, creating a unique destination experience. I'm currently working with Onondaga County Planning, who is assisting me with a waterfront development grant. The funding will help our community develop a plan to revitalize and capitalize on one of our greatest commodities, our many miles of waterway. The plan will provide a roadmap for further grant opportunities. Some of the possibilities for funding could go towards providing additional recreation on and along the river, small business growth, and enhancements to our community's aesthetics. I'm working with the village and the town of Van Buren on this project to ensure our whole community benefits from this opportunity. I'm also looking for grant funding to provide more bike, walking, and running trails. Beeville is well positioned to have bike paths and walking and running trails that could go from the village all the way into Onondaga Lake Park. There are boundless possibilities, and the community will have plenty of opportunities to participate in the waterfront revitalization development through forums that will be facilitated by a consultant. I'm always looking for opportunities to increase our senior housing. Additional senior housing will provide our parents and grandparents with the opportunity to downsize without having to leave our community. It's also opens up their current housing for young families to move into. Finally, I'm working with state and county officials to ensure that our community continues to enjoy the quality of life that we are all accustomed to. With Micron coming to our county, I will be the voice for the residents regarding any discussions that might impact the town of Lysander. Okay.
Okay, could I just, because I requested this, so I would just like to say something, if I could.
Okay.
Start spreading the news.
That's not what I was going to say. What I was going to tell everybody is, the last time we had a state of the town was in 2019. As a taxpayer and a resident, I came up to this board just about every year and asked for a state of the town. Normally in the state of the town, you get detailed financial information of what our fund balances are. Currently, our general fund balance is over $1 million, I could safely say. Other things I asked for, comparisons from 2019 to 2023 on the assessed value difference from 4 or 5 years ago to now. It's roughly 30%. The unappropriated fund balances, which I said, tax rates from 2019 to 2023 for general, park, town, and highway. ARPA expenditures, a detailed list. I sent this email on October 7th to the whole town board. So usually if you go back and watch the old videos on our town website, you would see a detailed analysis by either our comptroller or our town supervisor of what we've done with the tax rate, what we've tried to do, what our projects we accomplished were, and what future projects were. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Okay. Since you brought up the assessments, that's why most of the board, with the exception of you, voted to hold the assessment steady and to stop assessments going forward because it was causing an undue burden to the residents. So.
Okay, so on that, if you look at Van Buren tax bills for school taxes compared to Lysander, a Lysander resident paid $1 more per thousand than a Van Buren resident because we froze assessments. So look at your tax bills, call someone at Van Buren. You can look them up on iGov. I did. So it didn't save you any money. Now, we can't control what the town of Van Buren does to freeze assessments. Personally, I don't like not doing a job that we're supposed to do. So the other 17 towns in this county that just throw it to the wind, they're not doing their job either. So I'm here to work. That's all I'll say.
Well,
No, we need the state, we need as towns to tell the state, tell the other people to do their job, because the equalization rates aren't right. And I asked you to bring Teresa in to explain that, but you didn't.
The reason that the overall rate in Lysander and Van Buren, and I don't know that to be true, because I know why, I know how that is done, how the equalization rate is done. Do you?
Yeah, Teresa
You know,
sent an email about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked to her, Teresa, 2 or 3 times about it. She said it'll be a larger discrepancy next year if we freeze assessments. But that's our town assessor, and that's their town assessor.
Okay, but you didn't explain it to them. So now, if we hadn't done what we did, your equalization rate would have been about 12%. Your equalization rate this year was about 10%, so you actually saved 2%. It goes on 3 factors. There's the vacant land, the commercial property, and residential property. Our vacant land, commercial property, and residential property in Lysander has a higher value than, and it's mostly residential, than Van Buren. So ours is going to be higher because of that, because our homes are worth more on average than the town of Van Buren. So they take an average of the 3. Normally they just do residential properties separately, the commercial property separately, and vacant land separately. So because the town of Van Buren does not have the housing and property that has the value of ours, that's how that factor goes in. And every other town, with the exception of 2 in the county, has moved to this equalization rate because it isn't fair. And I have been talking to legislators about this, to do something about it, but that has to be changed in Albany. So, okay, so we'll move on to department head reports. Okay, Mr. Merrill?
Halloween window painting this Saturday, 10 to 1, so it'll be rather busy down the village. We've got 250 kids registered for all the windows. That's immediately followed 1 to 4, I think it is roughly. The Chamber of Commerce sponsors the trick-or-treating, so that's at all participating local businesses downtown. That's this weekend.
I have a question for Kevin.
Sure.
A few meetings back, a member of the audience, for lack of a better word, criticized you, I think it was, the way we were handling that new ball field. That it was a new field, and the recommendation from a member of the audience was that instead of fertilizing it or whatever we were doing, we should have taken plugs out. What's that?
Aeration.
Aerating the field. So having come from a park system background, I don't take anything lightly, so I went up to you and asked you, is that true? Let's find out what the best approach is. Because I just want to set the record straight. It's one thing to get a recommendation, and that's great, but it's another thing to be criticized because we didn't know what we were doing. What'd you find out, Kevin?
I followed up and contacted Seedway, which is the provider of the seed mix we used out there. They recommended not to aerate for at least a year or later. It would cause damage to the lawn as it is. It's a new lawn. You wouldn't aerate a new lawn, they recommended. I also contacted Sky High Turf Farm in Chittenango. I've utilized them for various projects, one with county parks. And I spoke to Amy there, and their recommendation for aeration was no less than 2 years on the new law.
To wait 2
Yeah,
years.
it caused anything less than 2 years or a year would cause damage to the well.
I appreciate you looking into it, and, you know, the best thing to do is to make sure that we're covering all the bases and we're doing it right, so hats off to you for doing it the right way. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Kevin. Window painting, how long is it gonna stay up for? I love driving down there and seeing.
So it used to, in the past, it's stayed up for a week. And the best that I can know or whatever, when
Like a week or
coming
two.
here and inheriting it was roughly a week, just because of the weather and that, the paint tends to run and not look so great. But there's been a lot of requests from people to keep it up at least through Halloween. So that's what we're doing this year. We're gonna try. I mean, if the thing is, if some windows run or whatever, or get bad, I know some of the businesses take it upon themselves to clean some of the stuff off. And if we need to help before Halloween, we'll do so. But we're gonna try it this year with the painting staying up through Halloween. So we would be scheduled with help from the volunteer fire, the local volunteer fire department, and Interact Club through the high school to clean them on November 4th. So
Thank you.
they'll be up through Halloween.
That's good. It's good to see.
Yeah, it is. It's actually.
It's nice.
The majority of my time has been spent obviously on the budget lately, and I look forward to presenting that on the 11th.
Okay. Ms. Falcone?
Yes, I just want to mention that we had spoken about this during the work session, that due to a conflict with early voting in the auditorium on Thursday, November 2nd from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., the presentation of the budget and the budget public hearing will be held Monday, November 13th at 5:30 p.m. in the auditorium. There will not be a regular town board meeting on November 2nd.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to the regular agenda items. So we are going to table the motion A for the reasons just stated.
Well, we're just gonna change it.
Oh, we're gonna, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had tabled here. Wrong one. You're right. I may have a motion to hold a public hearing for the town of Lysander 2024 preliminary budget on Monday, November 13th at 5:30 p.m. in the Lysander Town Hall. This resolution shall authorize the town clerk to advertise for same.
I'll move that.
Go ahead, Pete. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. So we are going to table the fire protection agreement. Mr. Moore suggested that we table the revised comprehensive land use plan. So do I have a motion to table that?
Why don't we just remove the language and then move forward with it?
Were there other issues? I know you guys were talking about it after the work session. Are there other issues with the club?
That's the only issue.
Well, I think it's the only issue we heard out here, but I don't know if that's the only. I mean, like I said, people are talking about the warehouse, the club code. I don't know if we table it and remove that paragraph and put it back on our website, then we can see what people think of the next version.
Well, we already had a public hearing on it.
But I think, listening to everybody out here, I think we need to put, there's definitely some misinformation going around, like the warehouse. Warehouse isn't that issue, they pulled that.
Oh, I'm not even thinking about the
Yeah,
warehouse.
but that's, the warehouse, the United Auto Warehouse is not happening. So obviously, there's enough people here that think it is, and that's not a fact. But
I don't think they think it is. I think if we
Well, I
leave
think
that in
some
there, it
people-
opens it up to allow an increase of usage.
I think there were some people that thought that was, but why not take the time to, I think we should take some time, and if we have to, put an advertisement in the Messenger to explain exactly what the club is more comprehensively, and to explain what is fact and what isn't fact. Not only that, I think for us just to do that unilaterally without offering the committee a chance to weigh in, and the chair there, I don't think that is an appropriate way to do it. I think we should allow them to weigh in and then help us to get the information out to the public so that they'll have more information. I mean, we've waited this long, what's the hurry?
There isn't a hurry, but
I don't mind
it's
pulling that
it's like
paragraph out.
one paragraph. I don't have a problem taking it out.
I don't either, Kevin. What I'm saying is we pull it out, republish it, and see what people think. Because you're making the assumption that's the only thing that people are having a hard time with. I don't know. I think we give people another chance. That's all I'm saying. Table it, take the paragraph out, talk to the committee and see if people are comfortable with it.
I agree.
But I mean, are we as a board in agreement that paragraph gets removed?
Kevin, give Jack, give the
We've
planning
discussed this for
committee-
4 months.
That's why we're going to.
We've removed Appendix A. You're asking us to remove the next paragraph.
Right.
We all discussed it at the
Right.
last meeting about,
Right, and
well,
I
we're
just-
not, we don't want to do it, so why would we leave it in there?
Kevin, that's what I said.
Right, but I don't know why we would put it back out there. I mean,
Because
we're
we
gonna
don't know
remove,
for sure that that is the only issue people have. The
but
issues are muddled.
we're
out
gonna
there.
remove that paragraph and put it back to the public.
That's what I
And we're
just
not
said.
gonna, in a month, put it back in.
Put it back in.
Right, that's what I'm asking, because it's open to interpretation. If we're gonna leave it back out there for people to read it again, we could change something again, that's all.
I don't know what we're gonna change.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Could I say something?
Yes, yes.
If you think about it practically,
So for people that don't know, Mr. Corey is the chairman of the club committee.
I'm the Darth Vader. As a practical matter, the club that the committee has recommended has been on the website for a month now. Only 2 things are different. Schedule A, which never was intended to be there, but accidentally got there, it's been removed. And now you're saying this paragraph. All the rest of that club has been out there for 30 days. Now, you know the old saying, I mean, I don't know, maybe if you read it 3 more times, you'll find something else. I don't know. But, to what Mr. Moore said, the club is a descriptive document of what the town sees as its mission and vision, the town board, for the town and the people of the town. And as a practical matter, a lot of what was in the 2015 club, as far as that goes, is in the update. We went through and updated certain sections and added new sections on solar because it wasn't available then. And I'll go to my grave regretting the fact that as a committee, with input from people from the industrial and commercial sector and stuff, that we put that suggested recommendation in there. Because to us, that was a recommendation. All that land is already zoned industrial. It can be developed tomorrow with everything you said you were afraid of, unless that code is changed. We were only putting out a recommendation that the town board consider bringing our acreage coverage up to a higher level so that if an opportunity came along, they could take advantage of the right opportunity, to your point, what you're putting in. Every one of those applications I review, you can't put the wrong thing in there, okay? And it just, I apologize, I'm frustrated. We've done a lot of work, and I don't understand the fact that one little paragraph, you know, I don't get it. I really don't.
That one paragraph.
It does nothing.
Then let's remove it.
Right.
Great, remove it.
Yeah, that's
But
what
you don't have to start the process over.
I don't want to start the process over. I don't want to start the process over.
That's my point.
No, I just want to take it out and move forward with it and be done with it. That's all I want to do.
I'd already made up my mind that when we send you Schedule A, it was out of there.
Yeah.
It's obvious you have no interest in looking at that. So, fine. Take the paragraph out, but I don't understand the idea of starting over. You reviewed the same thing. That's my only point.
I think you misunderstood.
Remove it and vote on it.
Well, I think you misunderstood well, at least what I was saying. I'm not saying start over. What I'm saying is, Mr. Moore has received emails and other people have gotten calls that there's all kinds of misinformation out there, all kinds. And all I'm suggesting is that we take the time, if we take the paragraph out, take it out, but take the time before we vote on it to address that misinformation. Just like United Auto is going to put a warehouse there. They are not going to put a warehouse there, as it is today. As it is today. And they would have to go back to you now because things have changed, right? Correct? So they would have to go back to you because things are changed. So that plan is dead. Is that a fair statement?
Unless they come back and actually want to build what was originally approved, it's dead.
Yeah, it's dead. So, and there are other things that are circulating in the community that I think we should address. So what I'm suggesting is, I like Mr. Moore's idea, table it, we'll sit down, we'll draft a document, put it in the messenger, give people plenty of time to review it, and we'll address and if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions, that they can send it to us. We will address each and every one of those questions. That's what I'm saying. So I agree with you. I think we should take.
Are you going to say we're going to have a new public hearing then? Because that's what I'm hearing.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, we're going to address the questions.
No, it's just
If we're going to put something in the messenger, and then how are the people going to come up and talk, and how are we going to respond?
Jeff, it'll end up as a motion, as an agenda item, because we are going to vote on something after the paragraph's taken. So at that time, if there are any further concerns, other than the paragraph, nothing. But it'll show up. So during citizens' comments, agenda item A, I'd like to say thank you for taking out the paragraph, whatever. But just give people the opportunity to speak. I'm in no rush. I don't know why anybody would be in a rush. I'm not in a rush. Eventually, we're going to adopt it.
I agree with you. I think we should table it as well.
I move that we table motion C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chair.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay. May a motion authorize the town of Lysander to levy unpaid 2023 water bills onto the 2024 county town tax bills.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. I don't see any need for an executive session.
We got a
Motion right there.
What?
The tax.
Oh, I'm sorry?
What about the code for the, are we doing it?
No, we're not going to do that
Okay.
tonight. We added motion E. May I have a motion to authorize payment to Colliers International for evaluation and advisory services for the Timber Banks Apartments tax certiorari case. This is the final payment and the amount is $2,100.
I'll move it. I'll second that.
You want to explain that, Mr. Zigno?
Yeah, this is a tax surcharge that was brought by Timber Banks for a 5-year period. They're contesting their taxes. As part of the process, we get to provide a statement from our auditors, from our certified people as to what the value of that property was. We did that along with the school board. We shared the expenses. Our share is what we're talking about paying tonight. The good news is that the taxpayer, Timber Banks, waived all of their tax claims. So they're all gone. It's over with.
Okay. Good job. Okay, we already had a motion, so any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, so now I don't see any reason for an executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn at 7:56.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.